Good afternoon, everybody. Happy Memorial Day. It is Monday. Why are we not outside at the swimming pools? I don't know, but all I know is it's much more fun being indoors on a sunny day and listening to us talk and share about the most incredible technology breakthroughs, what we've been using, and what we are looking at in the future of our education and especially music education. So I'm really thrilled to have my favorite people on this webinar and all that great stuff. I want to introduce Elisa Janson Jones, who's wonderful, an MBA and the queen of the webinar. It sounds like a washing machine, the webinar washing machine.
And I'm writing that down. Queen of the
Director, founder, educator, instructional designer, podcaster, author, and badass for the Society for the Online Music Education. An experienced K through 8 music educator, Elisa Janson Jones specializes in helping music educators build, manage, and grow thriving music programs and have a long, happy career. She holds a Bachelor of Music from the Brigham Young University and a Master of Business Administration from Western Governors University. Elisa is currently pursuing a Doctorate of Education in Instructional Design at North Central University. Her vast skills are used to help nonprofits, businesses, and music educators around the world. She serves as a conductor of her local community band and a columnist for SBO magazine and maintains a private lesson studio. Elisa is an internationally recognized speaker and has presented at national, state, and local conferences as well. She's also the host and producer of Music Ed Mentor podcast. I love it. I listen to it all the time. Founder of the International Music Education Summit and author of the Music Educator's Guide to Thrive and the Music Boosters Manual. Elisa, it is such an honor. You are so awesome. We met at the summit with Little Kids
Modern Band Summit, yes.
And we think of you. Laura was featured on one of your programs. We love what you do. We want to have you share with us your vision, what you're doing now, and what you think we should be integrating into our system. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm glad there's so much light on my face. You can't see how badly I am blushing right now because I never read that whole thing. It sounds completely overwhelming. I feel like 10 people. So some of the stuff that I do, I take this mixed bag of experience that I have as a K-8 music teacher and community conductor and nonprofit volunteer, and I kind of mix it all together to help music educators. And for the last few years, I've been super passionate about getting music education online, because when it's online, it's accessible to everybody who has an internet connection, right? So that's really where I started, was with professional development for music teachers. I built this 3-day online conference because my friends weren't coming to the conferences that I was speaking at because they couldn't afford it. So I quickly decided that webinars was the way to go. We built this online conference and it's kind of blown up from there. So I've also founded the Music Educators Creating Online Learning Facebook group, which we now is a monster resource for music educators. It's like the place to go for everything. It's turned into being this extremely helpful group full of camaraderie. And I'm so proud that I founded that and get to kind of curate that and be the leader in that group, which has been amazing. And that from all of this effort, we've created the Society for Online Music Education, which is an opportunity for experts in online music teaching, like the ones that we have on this little panel today, to get involved and provide mentorship for those who are just getting started. Because let's be honest, people have been teaching online for many years. This isn't something that just sprung up in the last couple of months. It's only been in the last couple of months that people are recognizing the opportunity, because we're being forced into it. but it has been happening. We also run online festivals. So Laura Kay was part of our World Choir Festival and Clinic. We did a full day of professional development just for choir directors. We did a sing-along session with new music from Hal Leonard. We did Laura's session, of course, on Electrify Your Choir. We did all these wonderful sessions. And then we also spent an entire day streaming choir's performances on the webinar platform. So people from all over the world could watch and truly celebrate that. A few weeks later, we did one for bands, and some of the bands, of course, they hadn't been able to create a recording of their bands, so they just sent audio only of their most recent one, and they got adjudication from like 3 world-class concert band adjudicators, because again, the adjudicators, they didn't have to travel. They didn't have to do anything but get on the portal that I built for them and listen to the bands and provide adjudication. So my goal is to just facilitate the teaching of the learning and teaching of music online in any way that I can. And that just requires being, clever and resourceful, like so many of these other panelists today.
That's so exciting.
That was long-winded. I'm so
Elisa,
sorry.
Yeah, but Elisa, how long have you been doing the online thing? What's your past?
I started doing video conferencing. Does that count?
Sure.
As a business
Absolutely.
consultant back in 2013. So I was an early adopter of Zoom, have been using it for a long time. That's what I use to record my podcast interviews and everything. So it's been fun to watch as people all of a sudden are like, Zoom, have you guys heard of this thing? And I'm like, yeah, I've heard of this thing.
So
and then
Lisa, was it any part of that reason because you live in the middle of nowhere?
Kind of.
No, I mean, Colorado is my favorite, but you know what I'm talking about.
I love to travel. I love to attend professional events. I love to meet in person my colleagues from around the country and around the world. It's an absolute joy, but it does require a level of commitment and financial commitment to it and investment. And not everybody can do that. And yet we still need that learning. We still need those professional credits and that opportunity. So my goal was just to create something that can provide that to anybody who has an internet connection. And I'm so pleased, the first year it was just purely let's try it out. And I was able to do it because I've taken classes on webinars. So thank you for calling me the queen. It's true. So I've just used all those skills. And then of course the podcast has facilitated some wonderful relationships with the guests that I get to interview on there. And so I just kind of had everything in place. And then, by putting it online, we can have people from Australia and people from the UK. This year we have attendees from 6 continents. We don't have anybody from Antarctica yet. So if you know anybody,
we'll work on that for you.
Okay, I will create a promo code if there's a music teacher in Antarctica who needs to attend. So that's kind of how it got started. And then it's just gone from there. If we can do this, what else can we do? Can we do festivals? Can we do adjudication? Can we do full day choir PDs? Can we do sing-alongs? And we absolutely can.
Excellent. Now, what we're dealing with right now is a massive acceleration of a technology that has been active, but nothing like we've seen in the last 2 months or 6 weeks. Where do you see and of course, a lot of this technology may drop off into nowhere once we get back to normal with live performances and a traditional classroom, which we are planning on doing. This is an abnormal situation. But what you've been doing, even during normal times, has been very effective and very impactful to the teachers who are remote or teachers who are in Europe, who are not going to fly to the United States for that. Where do you see the next year? What platforms do you think will disappear? And possibly what are the platforms that will have footing for the next 50 years?
That's pretty interesting to think about. I should say, as a band teacher, as a middle school band teacher, elementary music teacher, the only technology I really used in my class was YouTube, right? Or sometimes the CD player for my students to play along with Standard of Excellence. And that was it. Sometimes I'd pull out SmartMusic if I had access to it at that time. And that was a really useful tool. The things that are going to stay are the things that are simple to use, that are meaningful connections for students and teachers, and the things that are simple to use. Because honestly, if it's too complex, teachers aren't going to adopt it on a regular basis. You know, like you pointed out, I was trying to do things for music teachers to provide accessibility to these opportunities, even when school was in, you know, normal session. So all we can do is just find those ways, and it's going to be so much on a case-by-case basis, because some teachers are going to absolutely love it now that they've done it, and now they see how they can connect with their students, and let's be honest, a way that their students connect with each other, right? I have a 16-year-old daughter, you guys. I know that's hard to believe because I'm only 21. But she has had a boyfriend still, and I don't know why they haven't broken up when they can't see each other. It's because they're texting and they're video calling, and that's how they connect with each other. We as grown-ups are finally connecting with them on that same level. And I think that that's something that we absolutely can embrace, because we don't get into music teaching for, you know, the big paycheck. We get into it for the students. So those things that allow us to connect with them, that keep things simple for us, that help us do assessments more quickly, that maybe help us enrich, those are the things that are going to stay, not any of the novelty stuff. I don't know that anybody's going to be investing in doing a virtual ensemble video after this, except we are going to do it because there are students who deserve to have an honor band experience or an honor choir experience. So we actually started a virtual honor band 6 months before the whole pandemic thing. And we're going to be actually debuting that video at the International Music Education Summit, June 11th, 12th, and 13th. So. Wow.
So you think that TikTok is around forever?
I think TikTok is around forever because I mean, I'm friends with a lot of amazing people, but one of my favorite friends to follow on Facebook is the composer Randall Standridge. And he just did a TikTok. And yeah, I'm going to get on TikTok just because of Randall Standridge. Awesome. I'm not going to say any more. You guys will have to look it up.
Well, I just want to interject that when Elisa was preparing me for my webinar, what impressed me so much was the brief tutorials that you had in very easily digestible sound bites. Because I think that what scares a lot of educators away is like these 30-minute, 40-minute, hour-long tutorials that are like, I can't wrap my head around that. And you very creatively, because of your lengthy experience in this field, came up with a way to do like little 30 to 45 second tutorials on little tiny segments, and again in easily digestible bites that made it very, very user friendly. And I think that that's where we can really be helping our educators, is things like that.
Absolutely. And to be honest, all of those little ones that I did were on Loom. Loom is one of my favorite screen capture tools. That's what we use for our adjudication festivals. And I actually had a note here because I was like, if I could say anything to the people watching, these would be the things. Good. And one of them is, the younger the student, the smaller the bites. And so, there's a study, because I'm studying instructional design right now, which is online learning and how to create interactions and build online courses and do little 2-minute video trainings, right? And one of the studies that just came out is students drop off after 6 minutes. So you don't want to have any video bites that are longer than 6 minutes.
Adults drop off after 3.
That's true. That's why 5-minute crafts is a thing, right?
Yeah,
because you can watch it and watch it really fast and consume it really quickly. And it's the same thing for kids. They need that, especially if it's an intense learning opportunity, something that's really making them be creative and have to think. They can sit and watch YouTube passively for hours. Trust me. I know this firsthand. But if it's educational in nature, keeping it small and impactful and really distilling your information down, and then making it really student-centered. So what is it that they want to learn? What is it that they're excited about? And if you have to pull them to find that out, to figure out what kind of music that they're into, they're going to jump in feet first, head first, butt first. They're going to jump in and Robb's like nodding his head. He totally gets it. Being student-centered and project-based is actually what's going to win. So it's not a bunch of, meaningless assignments that are just busy work to them, because they can tell that it's busy work. But if you give them a project and break it down into bite-sized pieces and make it something that's meaningful to them, this has been, I have 3 musical children right now in my house. Okay. 3, you guys.
3.
Don't ask how many instruments we have. It's more than my band room at school. Right. And I bring this up because they, when it's not in school anymore, it's personal, right? So they're no longer seeing band and music as a chore, as a homework, as a curricular thing. It's now part of their life. They're identifying as musicians. This is an opportunity for them to make it personal instead of making it scholastic. So sorry, I kind of went off on a tangent there.
Elisa, what was that platform that you really loved? Let's just get that out there so the teachers can hear that.
Loom. And
what is it? Loom?
Loom. It's a Chrome extension. It's totally free. You use like your Google login, or I think they have social login options. And it's a screen capture and webcam capture. So if you wanted to like play an instrument while the music is scrolling on the page in front of you, you can absolutely do that. And it will capture your audio and the computer audio and mix it all together. And then it will basically put it into a URL that you can then share. So I do this a lot when clients, or I'm training a lot of presenters for future online conferences right now. And I can just quickly do a little 3-minute tutorial and email them the link. And then it tells me if they've watched it too. They can say, Loom will send me a notification that somebody has watched that training as well. So it's a very handy tool. And I actually brought that up. I did a really nice long webinar with my friend Jessica Peresta last Wednesday. We went through all the different scenarios that we could be looking at next year. If it's entirely online, if we're half online, half in the classroom, what if we're in the classroom, but we have to social distance, and so we've got all of these mandates that we have to follow? And what if it's like, if we just have to be extra clean, which please, can we just be extra clean? Can we teach children how to be extra clean? Okay, so anyway, we did this long webinar, and I mentioned Loom probably 3 times because it's my favorite tool. And they asked if I would actually do a little video training on Loom. So I'm working on that now.
Oh, awesome.
A video training on how to create video trainings using video.
Great. Well, thank you, Elisa. And please chime in at any point during our session together. I want to jump to Robb Janov, who is my dear friend from Albuquerque, New Mexico. Robb has dedicated 22 years of his long life, to providing innovative music classes to underserved populations in public schools, which I love that you do that. His national award-winning mid-school rock and rhythm program has featured on the PBS NewsHour, KNME, and PBS, Albuquerque Journal, and all the wonderful press that he's gotten, in addition to being named PBS American Graduate Champion. And Voya, Unsung Hero. Janov has presented a TEDx ABQ talk, received a Creative Bravos Award, and received numerous local and national grants. The success of the program ignited the Albuquerque Public School District to construct a rock and rhythm rehearsal performance facility specifically designed for the unique methodology and approach. I had the honor of seeing Robb's classroom. The second I walked in, I said, this is the future. Take pictures of this, everybody. This is how we get kids where there's musical instruments. And I think that you also allow your kids, God forbid, to experiment with other musical instruments other than the one they've chosen. Is that correct? And thank you, Robb, for joining us.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Mark. Yes, and to tag Elisa, on the student-centered approach towards it. It started with the students. The whole program started out of a need, because I got to Jefferson Middle School and they hired me to teach music classes that were not band and not orchestra, and these were all the kids who were the quote non-musicians, like the kids who weren't interested in music. But what I found out when I met them was they loved music. They were totally interested in music. They were actually pretty crazy about music. But what we were offering them in school didn't match what they wanted and what was exciting to them. So I just asked them, what would make you want to be in a music class? And I got an earful, and I just started designing the program based on what I thought they would like and what that would be exciting for them. And one of those things, Mark, is that a lot of kids felt that they wanted to try a lot of instruments. Middle schoolers developmentally are exploratory. They're exploring their world. They're trying to figure out their identity. Who am I? What makes up me? You know, and so if we just funnel them into one thing, which is often school is like that, where it's very convergent. It's converging on one point versus diverging into all sorts of directions. They will find their voice, but you have to give them some time, and you have to have the courage to manage that, because it's not as neat and beautiful and wrapped up with a little bow than what you experience. And people say, well, if they're going to switch instruments in every song, they're never going to sound good. And I thought that too, but the opposite ends up happening, is because they start a new instrument, they have a new excitement, a new ignition switch happens, and they are on it. And so they keep rebooting their energy versus getting fried out after, a year of one instrument. And it's great for a lot of us. It was great for me. It was great for a lot of us to have one instrument and really focus on it. But being
Robb,
able to explore the room,
you're going to do something while I talk about one thing. You're going to get the picture up on your screen, on sharing your screen, just the picture of your room, which looks like inside of a music store. But what I find to be super interesting and exciting about your particular program is a drummer, God forbid, is hanging out with a guitar player and a violin player. You're actually allowing different demographics of instruments to interact in musicians so that a string player can hang with the drummer. And that's where I got a lot of my rhythm accuracy, is not hanging out with other viola players. It was actually hanging with drummers and playing along with a saxophone player, where in a traditional string music program, you're not hanging out with those people at all. It's a big wall, and you broke that wall down. Look at this picture, and see if you can do a full screen, Robb. It is so exciting to see this as an example, because you do have string players in there, in your room.
Hit the green button in the upper left.
Hit the green button in the upper left. Oh yeah, there it is.
Yeah, I think that this is an exciting vision. That it's if we're going to be playing the Baroque Bach Brandenburgs, we probably will push the drums a little bit out of the way for that piece. But when we're right after you do the Brandenburgs, let's do Led Zeppelin. Okay, let's bring the drum back. And so you've created, in my mind, the future. So tell us about a little bit of the technology that maybe a teacher who's more traditional, who may not know how to introduce a drummer to the orchestra class.
Yeah. Well, first of all, this is overwhelming. This is 24 years in the making, this building. We've been in there about 3 years. And so that's pretty amazing, pretty overwhelming. And what I'd like to show now is what the classroom I got at the beginning when I first started. This was the classroom. This is a really good example of the classroom that I got and what I was asked to teach recorders, teach the music appreciation. And I quickly, and they're good for them. They're doing their best there, but this was not exciting to them and engaging them. And this was it was a little chorus room, a little dumpy chorus room. So yeah, it's I guess a step up. So then we took that room and we painted all the walls black. I'm going to get to answer your question, Mark, like step by step. We took that room, we painted all the walls black, put like glow in the dark stars on, put disco lights, and then I started raising money for instruments, because that's what I thought. The kids need good instruments. They need good gear, quality instruments, and quality gear to not only play to get them excited about it, but to prepare them to be a musician. To be a musician in this world, you need more than instrumental skills now. We need all this tech stuff to get there. So yeah, that's what we sort of evolved it. Here's another little shot of it.
Yeah, I mean, that looks like Abbey Road, right, Fred?
Here's a shot.
Unbelievable that is actually a classroom.
That was the same room as those kids that were playing recorders in.
Yeah, and the fundraising, would you say that you probably did most of the heavy lifting of the fundraising?
Remove the probably. We did.
You had no choice. Nobody was going to help you.
Yeah, no, we didn't get any funding, and they said, good luck. Here you go. Here are your kids. Have at it. Yeah, there's so many directions, so many years to share here. And I want to talk about the technology in there. I have a few pictures of technology. Let me show you a close-up. I'm trying to answer all your questions in order, but here to show, I guess what I'll start, I almost want to start by showing where I started with the technology, because we started with nothing, and I started in terms of fundraising. I tried a traditional fundraiser the first year. It was dreadful. I didn't like it. It didn't fit with our mission and our goal. And so I just reached out to the community. And the first thing I did was just ask, like, how about instead of doing a fundraiser, can some of the families throw in a few dollars and do some things like car washes where we're all working together? It's a teamwork thing. It matched it. Another way I did was adult rock and rhythm. The parents wanted to be in the class. After I generated all this excitement with the kids, the parents were like, you turned our kids into rock stars. Can you turn us into rock stars? And so I would do a class and raise money that way. And then we got into grants and appropriations, and I'd love to give some guidance for people to write grants and get government appropriations, because that always with the focus on how it benefits kids. I think that's, if you're always kid focused, you're gonna do all right. But that collaboration thing, I want to get back to your first question, Mark. I have 4 questions to answer. The first question of how to have them work together is to really create a collaborative environment in the class. It's easy to say we're a team and we're using teamwork, but most classes in school are more one-directional, where there's just information being served, and then you receive it, and then you have to spit it out on a test or play it. And it's more challenging to create a truly collaborative class with kids. It's much harder, and it means you have to let go of that control, that maestro model, and allow the kids to help each other. What I end up seeing was that the kids, once they realize that they have the control, they are not always looking to the adult for all the answers. They ignite. And to follow up on what Elisa said about music and instrumentation and an environment that is suited to their needs and what they're interested in, what ends up happening, what I've seen is a lot of the behavioral issues and struggles that a lot of teachers have start dissolving, because they've forgotten in school. It's not school anymore. It's, I'm going to do my thing.
Okay, well, two things, Rob. What is your number one technology suggestion and passion that you have seen a kid transformed by this thing? What would you choose?
Headphones.
What?
Just a pair of headphones. A pair of headphones.
Sometimes it is as simple as that. Honestly, sometimes it is as simple as that.
That's really interesting.
Yeah.
And here's why. I have a huge range of kids. The whole range is in there. And that was the idea, is to open the door so wide that any kid, no matter where they came from, no matter what their experience was, they would feel comfortable joining and being a part of it and feeling like a successful part of it. I think that's the part of it. A lot of kids are hesitant to play. They don't want people to know whether they can play or not. There's a lot of competition in music. Even if the teachers are trying to downplay it, they're just going to be competitive. So a kid who's struggling with the part, the kids will hear them in a music class, and they'll go, that kid, this kid, and there becomes this hierarchy. And my goal was to try to muddy up that hierarchy a little, and that we're all a band here and we all put our parts in, and together it sounds great. Whether some people are pulling a little more musical weight than others, that's fine. That's okay. We work together. If a kid can put those headphones on, like that electric drum set that you were looking at, Mark, that you were talking about, put those the headsets on and practice without anyone hearing them.
Or judging them.
And especially judging them. And to be able to work at their own pace and not feel any judgment from the kids. And I have it set up where I'll ask kids, let me know when you want to be more in the mix.
Yes,
that's not something you can usually do.
Absolutely. Rob, one thing before we move on to Matt is I wanted to, where up to this point, how much money, let's get right to the point here. How much money have you been able to generate with your incredible work?
It's over $150,000, I think. And that doesn't include the building. The building was, over, I'm not sure, 1 point.
And let's say you weren't at that school with those kids. Would they get that money just without you, or was it completely and thoroughly your groundbreaking work of PR and marketing? That's really you're doing. Why are we giving you this money, Mr. Janov?
Right. And it was entirely me pushing and bringing community in and bringing help in and pushing forward for this, because we get no funding. People look at that room and they say, wow, that's amazing. The public schools, no, they didn't pay for all this stuff. We worked for all this money. The beautiful thing about raising your own money is you can buy what you know the kids need. And there aren't parameters on it. And so you can really drive it in that direction.
But let's also be honest here. I'm not going to give you a penny unless I know that you're the person to use my funding to create what you're babbling about the last hour in my class, where you're trying to sell me on this thing. The fact that you're doing it is the game changer, because you have that sensibility. And by the way, everybody here on this panel is a master musician. That to me is the key to be great teaching, is your musicality. We are musicians here. And your musicianship, as by the way, we'll find out also Wednesday night at my other panel of icons of the electric violin. You are a tremendous, and you've been able to funnel your passion about technology and music into your classroom. That's why I really believe the next 5 to 10 years, you are going to be the example internationally. We bow down to you, Robb.
Thank you, Robb.
Thanks.
Matt Vanacoro is our dear friend, been our keyboard player for 1 million years. We've dragged him everywhere around the world. We love Matt. He's one of our New York's premier musicians. He's collaborated in the studio and on stage with artists such as Mark Wood. You've worked with Mark Wood. Oh my
Mark
God,
Wood.
He's such a loser.
I've been left in a hotel in Atlanta by Mark Wood.
Homeless and penniless. Mark Rivera from Billy Joe, who I love, Jordan Rudess, of course, and many others. He's appeared on many recordings of various artists, as well as his own music featured in film, equally at home on stage in front of thousands, or in the studio with a pair of headphones. Thank you,
Very
Robb.
important.
Matt has a reputation for bringing his own style to any project while still being able to fit in any genre. As formerly trained jazz pianist, music director, Matt has been in a variety of situations, from hosting jazz jams to directing musicals. A great, great teacher with a reputation for excellence and attention to detail. He's one of the most sought-out musicians in the New York area. But with a strong understanding of technology, Matt is today's modern musician. He's able to utilize the latest equipment and software, which is why we're featuring him today. And he can bring his rig work to any situation. Goes to NAMM show a lot, demonstrating for Digital Performer and a host of others. Matt, sorry, I don't have that in front of me, but I do know Digital Performer. He's developed his own recording studio, production facility, specializing in music production, photography, and videography. And we love Matt. Matt, thank you so much for joining us. You, again, are also not only the example like Robb is, but you believe it. You've doing the musicals and doing everything. Thanks, Matt. I really appreciate it.
Matt has always been, I just want to interject here. Matt has always been a technological guru.
Yeah.
On so many levels. And and what you're doing with your, I'm so excited that you're joining us today, because I want to hear I want you to share all the incredible things that you're doing with your classroom online
Sure.
and in this virtual world.
Well, I'm trying to do a lot of things. I think that, at the same time, I'm trying to think about setting up a framework for what I'm going to have to do down the road. This isn't going to go away soon. So embracing the idea of what skills can I as a teacher still help my students develop even when I'm not around is an important idea for all of us, because every model we're looking at for next year, there's very few that are like, it's just going to be what we've done in the past, like that's over. So it's time to look at what can I do to ensure that skill is being built at home, even if I'm not standing over your shoulder. And those kinds of things, they've been around a long time. The technology is not necessarily making them possible as much as more accountable and easier. So that's really what I'm looking for. I remember, Fred is here. He can talk a lot more about SmartMusic. But I remember when it first came to, our district, and we did this pilot program and bought a lot of microphones for the kids to use it. And we had some resistant sort of old school teachers that were like, this is you're not going to use a computer to teach kids music. And it's not, you have to really help them understand the way of thinking of like, this is something that can empower you to make sure that they're practicing. This is something that can empower you for assessment and skill building. I've been making videos. When we had to switch to this online learning thing, so fast, I knew that the only sucky thing for me was going to be missing the kids and seeing them in person. There was not, to be quite frank, any technological hurdle that I was going to have to overcome. I've been filming video lessons for a decade. So that wasn't like going to be the problem. But I knew that I would have to start to adapt my own thinking and my own psychology and my own ego and my own, all of those things. Like, can I survive as a teacher without that feedback that I get right away from the kids? And a lot of it was even, so even technological based teachers had to wrestle with that a lot, and wrestle with not having, quite frankly, what we got into teaching for. But the videos and the video lessons, things like that, like I've been using them for a long time to sort of build skills that get in the way of things. So when I talk to a band teacher and I show them something as basic as like how to make your own YouTube channel, film videos of important things, and say like, look, man, we've been assembling the clarinet the same way for the last hundreds of years. It's not going to change anytime soon. If you make a video on how to assemble a clarinet for your fourth graders, that's the last one you're going to have to make your entire career. You're like, these things are not wasted. There's so many skills that we can have them build that, I would argue that is a bit of wasted time in the classroom, because if they need to practice putting that instrument together 4 or 5 times, it's not really a great use of my time. I could be doing so much more musical things with them and building fundamental skills. So when I saw like a platform like SmartMusic, things like that come around, I go, this is great. I don't want to stand over the kid's shoulder while he's practicing that piece 10 times. Letting the computer do that and then having a report generated for me about where that kid struggled is a much better use of both of our time, because now when the kid comes back to me, I know I have a starting point for the conversation. So I always look at all these tools as, we're not looking to replace instruction. We're looking to make more out of the same amount of instruction time that you're given. I know that everyone in New York freaked out with the Cuomo and Bill Gates, like they're going to reimagine education thing, but a lot of us in the tech industry kind of know that like a lot of that is grant based. Like it was a stupid way to say it, but really like this is a guy who's dumping $350 million to buy you tools that might make you do your job better. They weren't going to construct robot teachers. They were going to let teachers like me and like you reach the kids at home easier when you need to. And even when you don't have to, be able to offload that stuff that is a bit of a waste of your class time and put it to the side so that they could drill it and work on it And so that when you have only 40 minutes with them, you can work on skill that's way, way, way more important. So that's what I think of for my stuff. I hate teaching kids how to tune a guitar. I teach a guitar class. Like it's just, I hate doing it. So, because I know it takes, like, developing your ear, you can't do it. There's no sheet that you're going to give them that is going to train this good enough to do it. We all know what it's going to take. It's going to take hundreds of times. So if I can make different videos and stuff that can push that out of my room so that they can work on that, and that in my room I can work on the things that I know I need to work on with them, it makes my instruction richer, and it makes a lot better use of my time. Now multiply that times every clarinet or flute or snare drum technique and things like that. That's where I start with the teachers, I think, that are afraid of this. I go, forget the conversation of you need to make 1 million videos. Like, just what would you love to have to stop telling your kids that you have to tell them every day? It's driving you nuts. Let's use technology to get that off of your plate so that you can now conduct Mahler, and you can actually develop those skills. So it's funny, but I'm one of the most minimalist technologists, for someone who has a lot of buttons and knobs in rooms all the time. Like when you can get by with so little, if you just embrace it and want to do it.
Matt, what I find to be so interesting about what you just said that I never thought about is that you're suggesting, and you've done this, is developing instructional YouTubes of information instead of you having to repeat it endlessly and using up a large part of your classroom time. Here, kids, the link, you're going to go home by yourself and you're going to learn this on your own. Is
Absolutely.
That sort of the philosophy?
Yeah, and I hesitate to use learn. I'm the teacher. It is my job to guide them, to places. But it's this is my digital resource table. Elisa mentioned before the problem-based learning, and task-based learning. That's a very big educational movement right now, is problem-based and task-based learning. And usually with problem-based learning, you're supposed to provide the kids, if you were in a classroom, not a cool classroom like a music classroom, if you were in a social studies classroom, sorry to all the social studies teachers watching, you're supposed to provide them with a problem-based learning. You're supposed to provide them with a resource table, a table somewhere in the room where it's like you're giving them, you're writing a thing about the Revolutionary War, but if you need to, there's a table over there, there's a bunch of facts about the Revolutionary War. So as you're writing your article, if you need to go over to the resource table, you can. So I looked at that and said, a lot of my music teacher friends, I'm talking 15 years ago when we were in this workshop learning about problem-based learning, sort of said, well, I don't even have room in my class. They're not going to get up and walk over and grab papers, in the middle of the orchestra rehearsal. And I said, okay, but what if we had, again, a digital resource table of these things that, they need to work on, that you look at as, this is burning up valuable class time, and I always start the conversation there. I said, okay, you teach beginning guitar. Wouldn't it be great if they all knew how to tune their guitar before they walked in the room? You can handle that. I don't like linking to other people's YouTubes. You don't have control of it. The video could go down at any moment. They could pull it off. There could be comments. So I like, and I just like the personal touch anyway. I like my kids to see me. So, I've got a sequence of pentatonic scale videos. Pentatonic scale on the guitar ain't changing anytime soon. I'm not refilming them. I did it 10 years ago, and it's fine. I know it's good, and I know it's explained in the way that I like to explain it because I'm the one that did it. So what I tell people is, a lot of people fear that filming these things is wasted time because it might change. I'm not filming how to play this specific song. I'm filming these techniques that are not going to go away. And I'm filming them because, music class, especially mine, is the great equalizer. I teach in a very diverse district. It's everywhere from very little income to extremely high level of income. So those kids, it's very diverse over who's getting private lessons. So I like to think of it like this is another way for me to make sure that those kids that have stuff that would be getting taken care of in private lessons gets taken care of.
Hey, Matt?
Yeah.
Matt, do you have anything that you can demonstrate to us to show us the kind of tools and technology that you use on your online classroom that
sure.
has been successful for you that our viewers might find interesting and helpful?
I can share the screen here really quick and just, let me
Awesome.
see.
Can I jump in and support while he's doing
Sure.
that? When I was teaching elementary school, I just created a single web page that had all the practice resources for my students. So they could go home and practice their program songs. And I made little sing-along lyric videos for them, and they loved it. And the parents loved it because they could just turn it on and their students could practice at home. And it was great for us because when they came back, exactly what Matt was saying, they knew their stuff so much better, and we could focus in on the issues that they had that I couldn't fix through a video. So that's awesome.
Yeah,
absolutely.
I mean, if you go in, like, this is my own like school-based sponsored web, YouTube channel, and a lot of these things like posture and keyboard setup, explaining sharps and flats, all these things. There's so many videos here, like explaining some basic techniques, everything from that to, straight up guitar instruction. And this is important because the idea behind problem-based learning is that some of these kids know this stuff already. I don't want to bore a kid teaching them, how to do 12-bar blues form when they already know how to do it. So when I give a task, it has a lot of layers to it. And I'll have a kid going, okay, we're going to do a blues today. If you know how to do a blues form, you're going to be writing one and you're going to do a drum track with it and a bass track and stuff like that. If you have never encountered a blues in your life, here's a great video that will explain, exactly how to do it. So they're all working on the same thing. It's just that I'm not going to make a kid sit there who is taking private lessons, has played a million Eric Clapton songs, and doesn't need to be explained what a blues form is. But I got those two kids in the same room. I want to do the blues. So I got to do something that can reach both of them at the same time. So this digital resource table is great because they're not all going to use it. They're not all going to watch all 24 of these videos. They're going to watch some of these videos, and as time goes by, they'll be exposed to the ones that they need to. And of course, I'm a Google Classroom district, so it integrates very well in the classroom. And you could see from, there all the way through to, today, you can, pick the point exactly when we started home instruction and see, like, filming basically a different lesson every day so I can continue to, do what I'm going to do, all the way to virtual concerts and things like that. I mean, I don't think virtual performances are going to go away. I think it's a great skill to have, to be able to put one together. I think that it's something that that everyone needs to learn how to do, and it's one of those things where, let me stop for a second. Yeah, quite frankly, I'm like, this is like, it's an important skill. You as a musician, if you want to be a good musician, you should know how to film yourself and use audio from your computer and get good sound. So, that's one of the things where, like, I'm talking to a lot of my choral teaching friends. There's an article, a couple came out about a month ago, the German article that all the choral people went nuts about because it shows that singing is definitely a super spreader. It can, COVID can go farther than 6 feet when you're singing. So everyone's really unsure about what chorus is going to look like in September, even if we go back to regular school. And that's why I immediately put my typical, teachers afraid of technology hat on and just go, okay, well, there's a lot of skills about singing that you need to learn, that you could learn, that you don't need to be in chorus for. So if you went to, instead of freaking out about this and going, I'm just not going to do anything, which is a lot. I understand because it's fear sometimes, you got to look at it and go, well, what has been bugging me that my choral students don't know? How can I teach them this? How can I fix it? And so with the virtual concerts, what I talked to the other day with one of my friends, because he was attending a webinar that was totally anti-virtual concerts, this whole long webinar, like, stop doing these music teachers. They teach kids nothing. And I'm like, you know what, though? That's nonsense. That is the music teacher that is not a performer talking. Any person who's performing now, learning how to video yourself and get good sound quality is a very, very important skill of a modern musician. It's like starting to get important now. It's only going to get more important as time goes by. So, you can teach people a lot about, and doing these is like, that coupled with a tool like SmartMusic, you can have them doing it with legitimate repertoire. They don't need to put together them singing all 4 parts of an a cappella song. But then again, if they did, would that be so bad? Like that's a great skill too. It's a great thing to learn how to do. But if you want even to use it with, like I said, a SmartMusic type tool, learning how to videotape yourself, I would start going in this particular, age we're living in and go, okay, yeah, not only are we going to use SmartMusic, you're going to film yourself with it, and I want great sound quality, and I want you to synchronize it later and give me a polished performance, and bring it in. So if you're a chorus teacher, embracing this type of thing is going to be really important, because if you still have, your school is going to still want to run those classes. Let's look at the reality of it. They got nowhere else to send the kids. They can't suddenly, that period, send those kids somewhere else. A lot of schools are built on the idea that as those 60 kids are in chorus, that's when the other teachers are teaching other kids, so they're gonna have to do it. So you as the chorus teacher have got to be really smart and start to figure out, okay, so I can't have them singing in a large group, but can I have them recording themselves at home and bringing that into critique and talk about, like, how do you critique a musical performance? How do you notice singing technique, and how do you film it and see, what we're looking for? And if you're a singer, like, the very realistic thing of, where do I get accompaniment from? Do I know how to use SmartMusic because I need legitimate accompaniment of a classical piece that I want to do for NISMA? Like, why can't I just use Jack's YouTube channel? Like, what's the difference between that and something that is clearly vetted? Even that, I mean, that was the first thing that popped into my head. I'm like, how am I going to teach these kids how to discover what is a legitimate accompaniment track and what is some BS that someone just threw together on the internet? Like, that's an important skill, because how many musicians can't do that? Like, there is a laundry list of skills that we can build using technology, and as part and using it to augment what we're doing in the classroom. I'm not scared of what September is going to look like. Whatever it's going to look like, we're just going to be ready to do it. But we got to help each other, and we got to figure it out together.
Matt, you're incredible. We really appreciate not only great musician, where it's great. Yeah, Deb, do you have a question?
Oh, listening to everybody, it's so interesting to me, again, as a retired teacher, and the things that y'all are talking about, putting everything together that y'all are talking about, is number one, the teacher as the guide, and not the I know everything and therefore you have to come to me for your knowledge. Is guiding the students of where they can get the information for themselves, making them be the musician, making them learn some of those techniques, some of the things that they need to learn themselves. They need to learn how to tune their instrument. I vividly remember an EYS where we were trying to have a rehearsal right before the concert, and kids are standing there with their instrument out with their teacher. I need help. I don't know how to do my instrument. And literally they were just standing there waiting for somebody to come do it for them. And so it's so important, whether you use with the technology is not replacing the teacher, but the technology is what's going to help students become more able to do things on their own, be self-sufficient, and not having to come to the teacher for everything.
Yeah, and Deb, you brought up a great point that Matt was talking about. Remove that from the teacher's huge list of to-dos. You have 45 minutes, teachers, and you got to do something, and you're spending 40 minutes of it tuning instruments. So yeah, I think Matt, thank you for that. And Matt did a great transition to our final speaker, Fred Flowerday from SmartMusic. I can't believe in his busy schedule on Memorial Day that he's available from his parading around in his military outfit. I got to put my glasses on for this one. Senior Vice President of the Business Development, Peaksware Music Brands, Alfred Music, Make Music, SmartMusic, and all the great stuff. Check this out. Spearhead development and continuous improvement of strategic initiatives that develop new markets while concurrently optimizing existing audiences. I'm not going to say that again. I'm not sure if I can do that. created a win-win agreement for jointly developed product with Abbey Road Studios and subsequent renewals that enhanced product development and onboarded a pipeline of new business opportunities. And the last thing, built digital-first content strategy with Alfred Music and Warner Brothers to leverage digital rights across music brands that served as a catalyst for forming new relationships. Berkeley educated, and the most important part of your bio, he played keyboards with the funk band Cameo, which I think is great to see you, Fred.
Thank you so much. I'm so glad I didn't have to follow anybody. Boy, such great points and such great people. Thank you so much for including me in the panel. Just to be clear, I did a couple gigs with the Cameo folks, and some of those stories are hilarious. Matt, I think you made such a great point about, being able to teach at a higher level when you get into the class. I think that, technology, when it's at its best, is a catalyst for people to learn. I had a teacher come up to me at the Midwest Clinic. He grabbed me at the booth and he said, yeah, you've made it really easy for my kids to learn the notes so I can teach them music. We're in their class. And I said, oh, that's great. He goes, yeah, why can't I delete assignments? So it was a kind of a double-edged thing. Something that was very positive, and I think it illuminated something else, particularly in SmartMusic. We have, so many users and so many approaches and so many needs, that balancing all of these to give every sort of path and every teacher and every student what they need, and to get them the quickest sort of path to that at the same time is always a challenge. This last, the latest with the COVID and the pandemic has been, what we did is we opened up the platform to everybody until June 30th. So it's completely available to anybody to use free of charge until the end of June. And it helped us have a whole bunch of people we can help in the platform. And it also really illuminated some very bright lines about friction points that people are having, getting their students better, faster, and especially in this remote sort of, time that we're in. But it was, all of the points that everyone has made today really sort of, illuminate some of these challenges that, as a company we're facing, getting people solutions.
Absolutely. And with SmartMusic being really the leader of this technology, it's been very exciting. And of course, we've been collaborating with me to develop a really exciting platform. Do you mind sharing that, Fred?
Yeah, I'll share a little bit. This is in a very sort of preliminary state, so I'll just sort of let everybody know that right up front. Hang on, let me stop my share and make sure I'm sharing music. Share computer sound. So, as I said, this is a very preliminary state, but one of the things that the dev team was knocking around was, the ability to sync video with notation. So in sort of one of those crazy weekend hacks, they figured out how to do it. And I found this sort of video of this handsome young gentleman in the desert. So this is a really preliminary sort of state, but we've always known Mark Wood, and we've always been good friends. And one of the conversations we had with, if we start combining some of these elements, as a performer, Matt, and everybody else, some of the most valuable stuff I've ever learned has been in a rehearsal, in that 5 minutes before we actually perform, in the breaks between shows. Some of these snippets where I can actually see, and hear what's going on. And, also some of this demystification of what it takes to be an improviser. It can be this big wall of stuff. And making it small and digestible enough and focused enough that it's not, this sort of big 45-minute video of, 7 easy steps to be better. So we thought about taking the elements from, syncing to video and some of Mark's approaches and some of his sort of secret sauce, and breaking them down into very short, focused videos around topics like major pentatonics, minor pentatonics, blues scale, Lydian, and sort of
For
taking
string players.
Yeah,
That's the new one. You really want to let string players improvise? Ay, ay, ay.
yeah. So we sort of looked at breaking it down into sort of 5 basic areas. Quick introduction and overview, but then like a tech workout. So getting these young folks. So I'm stealing all your ideas here, Mark. So getting folks away from running scales and sort of breaking it up, and using some of Mark's variations and approaches just to sort of get their fingers going, and then a call and response to get some ear sort of strength going on. So Mark's playing a lick and they have to call it back, and then an actual transcription of Mark playing to sort of start forming these things into sentences, and then a culmination. Each sort of section will have a small performance, ties all of these sort of things together. And we're going to sync it to video, and we're going to put it on a page sort of to have that sort of digital resource page. And then we're going to make it free. But we're right in the beginning of it, and we're going to release it over the summer, and there's definitely more to come on that.
Oh, well, thank you, Fred. We really enjoy you being here. And we're going to actually throw a couple of questions out. Laura, do you want to start with that?
Yes, I would love to hear from all of you your thoughts on all the technology that you've been utilizing and incorporating during this crazy time. As we transition back to whatever normal may look like in the fall or next year or whenever, what elements of that do you feel are here to stay and are going to be valuable moving forward, even in an in-person classroom or as an adjunct to in-person classroom teaching?
Can I go first?
Yes.
Some kind of video and audio editing software. You don't have to have both. It doesn't have to be fancy. I use Camtasia, which is a paid program, but as a teacher, it's only $170. It's not like, Premiere Pro. And it's extremely intuitive, and you can do everything from combining audio tracks to adding lyrics and slideshows. So some kind of basic video and audio editing software is just something everybody should know at this point.
So everybody should buy stock in YouTube is my takeaway from this whole thing, right?
Unless you want to host it yourself. There are ways to not have to have it on YouTube.
Ah, that's interesting. I mean, we're going off of Facebook now, so the technology, we're already using this amazing platform. Laura, any other questions from the...
Well, I'd like everybody to answer that. I'd like of the technology that you've either been introduced to or been forced to use during this pandemic, what do you feel is going to have ongoing value in the in-person classroom, or as we start combining the two as we move forward? Matt?
I think training. I think that this is opening a lot of teachers' eyes that you can go to places to get online trained in something and learn something new. I have encountered a lot of teachers that 2 years ago would have never said that they would edit a video of a kid, performing and something like that. And, I think what Elisa pointed out was it's perfect. I mean, it's the exact, you have everything you need in your phone if you have a smartphone for this. Like, you can film stuff. LumaFusion is like, what is it, $10? Like it's almost as powerful as Final Cut Pro as super expensive stuff. So that's why I never buy I don't have the fancy tools you have. I'm like, dude, I use like 9 out of 10 times these iMovie, and my phone. Like, I don't break that stuff out unless someone's paying me thousands of dollars to use it. It's too complicated. It takes hours to set up. I break this out and I break out, and that's it. So the idea that you have these tools already, a lot of teachers jumped in and learned a lot of new stuff during this time. And I think that our eyes are open with that. And it's exciting to know that, a lot of us discovered we can learn something new, even if we've been teaching for 20 years, So I think hopefully that's not going away.
Yeah, I use tons of free stuff. I use Adobe Spark, which can do video or entire web pages, and that's completely free. I use Canva, and that's a completely free design studio. So you're absolutely right. It doesn't have to be something expensive or something that you have to take a course on. There's enough really easy, free, intuitive stuff out there.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure, Lisa, you're in the same spot. Like, I think of expensive stuff last. When people tell me, like, what should I get? I never, like, because if no one asked me about my expensive studio stuff, because if they're a studio geek, they probably did a lot of research on their own already, and they know what they want. They'll ask me, like, if people are asking me for recommendations, the immediate thing I go to is the easiest and cheapest thing that I can find to get you to get it done. That's it.
Excellent. Hey, Deb, did you have any last minute thoughts?
Well, I was just thinking about when we go back to being able to be in person. The thing that has hit me, especially looking at the Facebook pages and everything, is that when you're in person, the being able to rehearse and to do the big ensembles, and obviously that's what you do. But as you guys pointed out, the things that teachers are supposed to cover is massively long, and there is no way on earth to cover it all in any classroom ever. So using technology to do the things that you don't have time to do in the classroom. Unfortunately, a lot of the creative things, create, write, compose, analyze, all of those really high level things that musicians should be able to do. A lot of times there's no time for that in the classroom. So use the technology that everybody's been talking about and assign those kinds of things to be doing outside of the classroom. And it just seems like a really nice marriage between in-person technology, online, student as worker, where they're doing a lot of the learning themselves.
Great, Deb. Hey, Rob, what are your thoughts?
And a quick thought. I think this is maybe the start of a cultural shift because what I experienced when suddenly we're not at school anymore is I'm seeing teachers a lot more than I did when we were in school. Because when we're in classrooms, we're pretty much isolated from each other. And I don't see them. I actually don't know a lot of the teachers at my school. And over the course of the last few months, we got to know each other really well because we did what we're doing right here. And I think the key to all this maybe is that we share like this. We share all our ideas with each other. And there's so much more collaboration going on among the staff at my school than there was before, out of need. We need help. We need to help each other. That's what I've seen.
Excellent, Rob. Why don't we wrap it up with each one of us doing about a 15-second wrap-up of what we think we should be placing our heads on this next couple of months. And I think the most important thing that we also need to do, and unfortunately it has nothing to do with our musicianship, is getting the message out that we are not going to be removed from the classrooms in the fall because we're irrelevant and academics need to be forefront of everything. California, as Matt knows, has removed SATs and that type of testing. It's an interesting movement where, again, creativity, imagination, and that's where we get the arts from, is front and center for a well-rounded student. So don't let your school, your colleagues talk about, oh, we can do the music later or after school. A lot of these kids live and breathe for the music programs. So fight for the music programs and the arts.
It's the thing that's saving pretty much everyone right now. What are we all tuning to? We're tuning to Netflix. We're tuning to Hulu. We're looking to things to entertain us. Music and the arts are more important than ever now. So fighting for them before was really, really important. Fighting for them now, you have a lot of ammunition, teachers. You have a ton of ammunition because this is the thing that is saving the mental health of your students on a grand scale.
Yeah. Elisa, what are your thoughts?
I know where the mute button is, you guys. Okay, really quick. Music is music. If you can't teach them to sing, but you can teach them an instrument, any musical skill that they're developing is going to help them be better musicians. So be flexible and realize that you teach students first, and you teach students music, and you teach students music using whatever means that you have available to you. And also this changing of perspective that learning happens in a variety of ways. We've been distance learning since we wrote books. Books are distance learning. The biggest learning platform in the world is YouTube, right? Or maybe Facebook, I should say that because we're on Facebook Live. But these things are distance learning. VHS, DVD. I don't know what a VHS is. I'm too young to know that. But all of these things have been distance learning. So put some perspective behind what you're having to do. This distance learning thing has been around forever. And any kind of musical skill that you teach your students is going to create better musicians.
Beautiful. Matt.
You know what? I think the biggest, most important thing for all of us to remember as music teachers is don't marginalize yourself. You know, go in and don't let it become self-defeating. I embraced, I counteract anything, you know, any conversations that come our way about, well, you know, we'll schedule you guys. I'm like, no, you know, like everything I'm teaching is as valuable as any other subject. I teach more students than a lot of those subjects do. And we reach more students. I teach these kids from 6th grade to 12th grade. So, you know, I think all of us need to just remember our value and be confident in our value, and make sure when you're looking at building your online lessons or whatever whatever sort of model we go back to, the stuff that you're going to do has value. You need to believe that it does first before you are trying to advocate to everyone else that it does. So you need to remember that what you have to teach is valuable, and that even if you can't teach it in the same way that you used to, doesn't make it any less valuable, and it doesn't make your guidance and instruction any less valuable. So everyone's got to just remember that. Don't marginalize yourself. Don't sell yourself short.
Beautifully said. Hey, Fred, any final thoughts from the Cameo keyboard player?
Oh my gosh. I just think it's incumbent on us as a company to continue to, make the tools that enable people to cut to the chase quicker and engage more people and have fewer people quit. Music's a wonderful thing. We're all musicians, every one of us. And, the company, everyone's a musician as well. We all came from music. I originally took my job at Make Music to support my filthy jazz habit. And it's the truth, and to see the tools that we work on to be successful and help people be better teachers and help people be better musicians faster. That's the goal. That's what we want to do. So, yeah.
Beautifully said, Fred. And we really thank you for joining us, because having a prestigious company supporting this, I hate to use the word struggle, but it seems like we just constantly struggle with our messaging about the value of what we do as music teachers and musicians. And thank you, Fred. Robb, finishing up with you.
I would say start really simple and really small, to tag on what Matt said. Start really, really small, simple solutions. And plug your kids in. Band teachers, orchestras, find a way to plug your kids in. Create a little station in the corner. Once you plug your instrument in, this whole world opens up. It's amazing, amazing thing. I'll never forget the moment when I was in high school, and these jazz kids pulled me into their jazz fusion band, and my friend Mick gave me this little tiny box, and he said, "Here, plug your violin into this." And it was this little green box. It was a Boss phaser pedal. And once you plug in, the creativity and the excitement is just, it's immeasurable. And I think if we can help each other and embrace all this new technology and help each other along, that we might ignite a whole new educational world.
Yes, I totally agree. Does anybody have any last minute thoughts? Laura.
One last minute thing. A choir director had posted a question about how to learn to do virtual performance. And I'm going to share the links that Elisa so kindly shared in our chat window. I'll post that in the comments. But I also want to bring up something that I've been noticing quite a lot as everyone is learning about how to do these virtual videos with your kids. The one thing that I'm seeing that I'm missing is emotion. There's a whole bunch of kids on the screen, and okay, you've got the technical part of it down, right? But this is where our program generally comes in, and this is what we focus on an in-person level, and it's super easy to do it online also, is performance coaching. How do you get the best performance out of your kids? It's not just film yourself playing the part and you'll be in the video. Film yourself playing the part and you'll be in the video. Give yourself energy. You've got to tell your kids to put themselves into it. If they're not putting themselves into it, if they're not being authentic, if they're not giving authentic visual performances, then you might as well not share the video. Then it might just as well be an audio thing. We're a visual society. We respond to this stuff. Performance is key, and we must constantly work with our kids to give them permission to show us who they are and share their performances on a genuine, authentic, 100% off the wall level.
And everybody can learn how to do that right from you at the International Music Education Summit, because you're going to be presenting.
Yes.
I am. And what day is that, Elisa?
It's June 11th through 13th, musiceducationsummit.org.
Oh, Elisa,
Performing at 1 o'clock on, I don't remember what day, but I am, my webinar is one of those days, and you will learn all about that.
And it's all recorded and made available to the attendees afterwards. So if they want to revisit it in 6 months, they absolutely can. So.
Well, thank you, everybody. And Wednesday night, we have the icons of the electric violin. Robb is going to join us and many others. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in to the TV show that everyone can never miss. We'll see you soon, guys. Peace and love. And let's go support our military and all our great people who are helping us out at this time of struggling. We're going to get through this. Thank you, guys.